What are the essentials to you? What makes cinema?
I think what makes cinema to me, I think ultimately it's something that for some reason stays with you, so that a few years later you could watch it again, or 10 years later you watch it again and it's different.
I have always wanted to watch every film Scorsese ever made. And I thought, in honor of Killers of the Flower Moon just got released a month ago, I thought it would be a good idea looking back at Scorsese's filmography and rank them because why not, I guess. I mean, the first name that comes to mind when I think of cinema is Martin Scorsese. I love this man. I love how he never plays by the rules. Like, most of his films are very controversial and he got so much hate for. But he's never scared of telling the truth, and I think every film he's ever put out was for a reason. Like, there is something behind that. He felt the story really needed to be told. And I don't know, something beautiful about that. He's just not making movies for the profit. I've been watching his films since as long as I can remember, honestly, at an age that no child should watch it. But in a way, I think it shaped me in how the way I view cinema and what it means to me. I'll always be grateful for that and for my grandfather for introducing me to him. So without further ado, I think I should just get into it because it's going to be a very long video, starting with Who's That Knocking at My Door? I don't have much to say about this one, except it's fascinating watching Scorsese this early in his filmmaking career, but other than that, nothing too special about it. I mean, there is definitely some aspects that make this a distinctly Scorsese work though. Things like the mob, New York, and religion are all motive which would define his work later on, but are all clearly present here. It's like, the introduction to Martin Scorsese and what's to come in his filmography. I think watching Who's That Knocking at My Door, it didn't feel like watching a complete film instead of seeing him learning how to make a film. I think I discovered Kundun recently. Not recently, but I think a couple of years ago. And I think what's respectable about it is that he treats his story very seriously rather than falling into the Hollywood cliche. I think conversations are political and intelligent, touching upon socialism, religion, and nonviolence. But I think Kundun works best as a mood piece, with the beautiful cinematography by Roger Deakins, of course, and detailed production design, creating a film that looks vibrant and alive. And there's some moments of fantasy and dream that it reaches new heights by dwelling on the consequences of the choices that the Dalai Lama had to make. Scorsese's depiction of religious leaders always finds its way to focus on their feelings of guilt. However, these moments of interest are few and far between in this one. For the most part, Kundun is merely a study biopic with some excellent craftsmanship, but there isn't enough depth to elevate it to greatness. But it's a very solid movie. I think it's beautiful. Like I said, it's visually stunning. The story was good, and I think it was very strong for me. But I think that it looked gorgeous. Mean Streets. This might be my least favorite of Martin Scorsese's films. The characters were so flat and boring, and I didn't feel any connection to them or cared what's going to happen to them. The plot was weak, so was the whole script. Other than that, it was good. Don't get me wrong, the film is not bad. It's not a bad movie at all. The directing is still great, and it has a killer soundtrack. Scorsese never really falls to put out right music. And there was some cool shots in here. Harvey Keitel did as much as he can with so little he was given. The nearest character was odd, and they put too much into it and for no reason. I didn't really understand because I feel like we don't get much of him, but we constantly hearing about his character in the film. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's not a bad movie if you wanna watch it. I just don't think I would ever watch it again, or maybe not anytime soon. The Last Temptation of Christ. Look, I don't think it's the movie for me. I can still appreciate it. I think that's the same way I went with Ingmar Bergman filmography, because I don't get it. I watch his movies and I don't understand it, but I think I appreciate it very well. It looks beautiful, and I can understand the meaning behind it and directing wise. And same with this one. Like I said, it's not for me, but I still did enjoy the aspects of how great this movie is and how the directing and cinematography, it looks beautiful, and there was so much maybe meaning for Scorsese when he was making it. like, of course, in every movie he's ever made, really, it's a common theme, religion, and I think this one, like, of course, like, takes the cake. It's fully about religion. Also, David Bowie's in the movie. Like, I was very surprised. Very cool surprise too. I think Gangs of New York is one of these movies that you feel like it must have been hell making it, and I have no clue. Like, it's just, that's how I feel. This movie, it should have been epic, and you can tell by all the production and all that, but it just crossed the line to be corny. But I do love watching Daniel Day-Lewis going psycho for like over 3 hours. He did carry the movie for me and stole every scene he was in. The script seems all over the place, honestly. The story feels unimportant. It has so much potential, but sadly, it just fell flat. And I think it's Scorsese's most flawed, messy, and uneven film. But you know what? It's not all bad. Like, directing is amazing as always, and there was, like, we can talk also about the immersive set design. The opening fight sequence was absolutely badass, and it set the tone for the film very well. I think the first half was good. I felt a bit invested at the beginning, but you know, at the last hour I was just so bored and I just wanted to end. I didn't care what's gonna happen to any of the characters, and this is never a good sign. But I think we hold Martin Scorsese in such a high standard that this movie just couldn't hold up. I can understand why this wasn't a big hit when it came out, and even now I don't really hear many people talk about it. It took me a while to get into it, and it starts being charming with some beautiful jazz music, but then the characters, especially Robert De Niro's character, is just very annoying. It's a bit long, and some scenes were dragged or felt unnecessary, but I think the result of that just grows on you. And we get to hear De Niro singing, which sure, he does great too, because this man doesn't do anything wrong. The pacing is weirdly off, and scenes often feel longer than necessary, but the film's strongest aspect is definitely the music, which is brilliant. The final act is almost perfect. The ending itself is heartbreaking when it arrives and almost makes the nearly 3 hour just feels worth it. For every Scorsese movie, I think there is a core story, but it's always devious and hidden. For this one, it's clear as day, and it's about love. How hurtful it can be for other people. I think The Age of Innocence is a romantic and moving film that shows Scorsese's versatility as a filmmaker. I really wanted to love it, but I wasn't much invested in it, but I still can appreciate it and appreciate the performance and the writing. I mean, looking back at it, Louis' aching desire and Pfeiffer's deep frustration and Ryder's deceptive innocence are all so clearly, and you can, even if they are communicated by the slightest of looks, glances, and movement. And the look of it's such a beautiful film. Its cinematography is great. I mean, going from shot to shot, framing his elegant staging with ease. It's him at his most artistically sophisticated, painting a portrait of New York. The Color of Money. I had so much fun watching this movie, and I don't even like Paul. The amount of energy, exhilarating editing, and chemistry of Paul Newman, Tom Cruise, and Mary Elizabeth it just makes your eyes glued to the screen. I never knew that there were pool tournaments, like it's a serious game. Scorsese can do any genre. This man's range is something else. He can always success and pull it off. It's a great film. There is so much energy and heart to it. Every character is kind of horrible, but it makes it so much fun. They only care for winning and getting more and more, and they will use anyone to get what they want. Even Vincent, who at the beginning he was really sweet, but at the end he had to change to fit in. I love the ending. It's such a cool film. I didn't expect it to like it that much. Cape Fear. From the first 5 minutes, you can tell how dramatic this movie will be. The amount of anxiety that it gave me is crazy. I mean, that's a great thriller. I'm really scared of Robert De Niro right now. But the more I watch Scorsese's movies, the more I'm convinced that Robert De Niro is genuinely one of the best actors of all time. The man has a range I've never seen before, but I think he shines the most when he takes a villain's part. The plot is good and mostly straightforward. Scorsese delivers a solid psychopathic revenge thriller. All the acting is amazing, the camera work is slow and methodical, the score is sinister, and Scoon's maker's editing is fantastic. The atmosphere and tension is great sometimes. The nail-biting screenplay, great tension, odd humor, excellent directing, and a killer finish makes Cape Fear massively entertaining. The Aviator. It was way more interesting than I anticipated it to be. It irritates me a little that the film makes excellent use of Howard's money and OCD without going into details to explain or develop how both came to be such an important aspect of his life. There is nothing similar to the way Scorsese executes the film. With this one, he attempts to achieve different purposes, yet he never forgets to showcase his roots and what makes his style special. The rich production design, breathtaking cinematography, Howard Shore brilliant score, Mark Scorsese meticulous directing, and the exceptional performance of Leonardo DiCaprio and Cate Blanchett. It lags, and I think there are some structure problems, but I find it extremely compelling for the simple reason that it feels like one of Scorsese's most personal films. I just have to imagine that he saw something in the story of a brilliant, ambitious, driven, and obsessive man consumed by his demons and driven to personal ruin because no matter what he achieves, he can't satisfy them. And also I have to mention the camera work in the opening runaway scene and the subsequent ballroom scene. These were brilliantly done and just very beautiful. Hugo's unlike anything Scorsese ever done. It feels like he didn't make this film for kids, he did it for himself. First and foremost, Martin Scorsese is a cinephile, he loves cinema, and this was like his most personal project. I feel like when people hear that this was a Scorsese film, it doesn't seem right to them. But I get it, like most of his films are very violent and all that, but when you really look at it, I think this is like Martin Scorsese at his most vulnerable. Ben Kingsley is perfect in this movie. This is a visually stunning film with a lot of cold blue and warm yellow colors. The tracking shots are very immersive to watch. The pacing in the opening sequence is very fast, but the rest of the film is just constant pacing. One of the only movies about the magical movies that actually captures just how miraculous cinema can be. While watching it for 2 hours, everything disappeared and cinema took over in a genuinely beautiful and moving way. I think it's such a sweet film that just has so much. He just wanted to talk about all movies and I don't know, the way it feels for him, and I don't know, such a nostalgic and beautiful film. I think Bringing Out the Dead is definitely Scorsese's darkest. I had a blast watching this film. I didn't know what exactly I was getting myself into, and I think that's the best way to watch it. You are there for the ride, and it's a crazy ride. The way at which the edit goes about capturing exhaustion is pretty genius, and the use of light here is just phenomenal. Every scene is somewhere between a surgical examination and a fantasy. It's so glimmering, like everyone is either stepping into or out of heaven. I think they couldn't have cast a better lead than Nick Cage. His face is perfectly haunted. I love every character in this film. What a great screenplay, and the directing is of course amazing, and it was funny at times actually in a very weird way. But this is probably the most anxiety-inducing film I've seen this far from Scorsese. Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. This is the only film that Martin Scorsese directed that has a female protagonist, which in a way that's understandable. In every film he ever made, he sees some of himself in the character, but in this case he couldn't, which in a result you get a film that doesn't really feel like a Scorsese film, but not in a bad way. I love the relationship between Alice and Tommy. I love Tommy, he's so funny and he steals every scene he's in. They had such a great chemistry. This movie really depends on nostalgia because the whole thing is just relies on how Alice wants to go back to her old town, in a way going back to her old life, thinking they will be happy there because she once was. But through the whole journey she realized that's not true, and she doesn't want her old life back. She wants something more out of this life. She gains confidence in herself, which this is the main question of the film. Will Alice be able to take control of her own life or not? The best way to describe The Wolf of Wall Street is it's a non-stop chaotic trip, but a very fun one. This is his craziest and very unexpected of him, this story, but of course he pulls it off because like he usually does. And it's quite rewatchable because it's so fun and very fast paced. You wouldn't even notice time because I think it's over 3 hours, but it feels like one of these movies that's just like hour and a half of fun. You don't feel it whatsoever. And Jonah Hill and Leo are a perfect pair, and they complete each other very well. I love their chemistry. It's so compelling to watch it like over and over. It looks like crazy fun to be a part of this one, and the making of it, like I said, from Gangs of New York, it just looked like hell. But this one just, it seems so, I don't know, people liked each other and they had so much fun. I don't know, I think it can translate back to the audience, and this was a very, very fun watch. Casino has one of the most memorable opening scenes. It leaves you with awe and holds you to your seat to know what's gonna happen. Doing that, especially after Goodfellas, must have been hard. People thought it would be like a sequel to it, but it's not. A huge thanks to Joe Pesci and De Niro to draw the people away so they would think of their characters from Goodfellas. These are more flashy, extravagant people. The performances in this one are wild, but I have to give it to Joe Pesci. He is just brilliant. He's so good, and I think this might be my favorite performance of his. It was so good. It's a blast and honestly pretty hilarious at times. It flows really well, although I will say I felt the runtime on this one more than I did with anything else he has done. It can be annoying, but I think that what makes it fun. I don't know, I had a great time anyway. The shots are just gorgeous. The pop music soundtrack is among Scorsese's very best. The setting, the closing, the acting, the props, every aspect of Casino, it screams extravagance. Unlike many gangster films, Casino isn't about family, it's about the lifestyle as well as the rise and fall of various competing personalities. And I have to give it to Richardson's cinematography. All the overexposed lighting and promised filters simultaneously embodies the heightened glitz of Vegas. I've been having a hard time talking about silence since I watched it. Like, this is such a crucial film to watch, and my god, Andrew Garfield gives an insane performance. Out of Scorsese's pictures does involve religion, but this one is very deep into it. You feel trapped, but you don't notice how long it is in a way. It wasn't a long watch for me, and I'm glad I finally got to it. I think the VFX were weird in some scenes, honestly, and it's not flawless film in any way, but the care of everything that went into it, it's just very obvious. It's Scorsese's film, so of course you expect that, and the love that he has for this craft is beautiful, and you can tell this was a hard one to film, from the locations and the amount of extras. I have to say that because it has one of the best extras I've seen before. It reminded me of the extras from Come and See. I always love to look back and what they do, because sometimes they do crazy stuff, but I think with this one, like, whenever you would look back, they're just very immersed in every character, and that's beautiful. The love for the craft, like, they just not there for it to be there. They're doing everything they can do for like just a runtime of 2 seconds. I would highly recommend it. Really, it's a hard watch, but it's worth it. Shutter Island is very different the first time you watch it, because the first time is more contributed to the shock and the surprise element, but the second time and the more you watch it, you notice the little details that you missed before, and it's so much fun and it's so exciting. Honestly, I think it could pass on being a horror film in a weird way. The atmosphere is so creepy. There were some shots that, like, I will always remember. They were very scary to watch the first time, especially. The film makes you question everything you just watched and dares you to take another glance so you can catch all of the fine details that you have missed. I love the interior of the Shutter Island cinematography and production design. It's quite frightening and beautiful at the same time. It's a terrifying mix of heartbreaking drama, hair-raising thrillers, and horrifying recollections of reality. This is one of the rare genres of movies that plays out as a completely different story after you know the twist ending. But I love this movie. I think it was very different from anything he ever made. I love the scene between Leonardo DiCaprio and Mark Ruffalo at the end. It's very known. Like, even if you haven't watched the movie before, you don't know the plot or anything, I think people know this setting and this quote. I love the facial expressions of both of them. It means a lot, even if you just take it out of context. It makes you think about life. The Irishman. The cast of The Irishman is absolutely insane. It feels like it's your last chance to see all these great giants doing what they are supposed to do, and it's such a glorious moment. Even Joe Pesci has actually retired before, but he came back for this movie, so it feels very special. All this aside, I think people forgot about all of that, and whenever you would mention The Irishman, they would talk about how long it is, which I think is kind of annoying because I've seen movies at like an hour and a half and they were so boring, and I would look at like how much the time has gone by, which that didn't happen for this one. I think the last story was very engaging. I really thought it could have been even longer and I wouldn't mind it. And I know it sounds maybe a bit pretentious, but it really is. If the story is good, I think that's all that matters. It doesn't matter how long a movie is. It's a very well done movie. I was invested through the whole thing. I didn't feel bored. The performances, of course, are great from everyone. Even the small role where they were for like a couple of minutes, they did great and they were very matter to the story. The part that has such a fun plot and it just immediately gets you hooked. I remember looking at this movie for the first time. I was like, wow, it has a great cast. And they're really good. I think everyone does great. This might be one of my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio's like performances. I think he works best when he does this like very obsessive and crazy characters, because he does love to go like very into it. He is of course a great actor, but he doesn't do subtle characters, if I'm being honest. I haven't seen it before. So anyways, that's what I feel like it works best for him. Everyone did great though. Mark Wahlberg was just so funny. The movie is very like a lot of things happening, and whenever he would come on, it's just like so fun. The plot is great and immediately gets you hooked. The entire film is rich with interesting approaches, and the whole third act is just incredible. Every single performance was so good in this film. Leo really shines in this one. Scorsese tries a lot of different things and he really lends them all. It gets better with every rewatch, and I think it has a perfect ending. Raging Bull is not your typical sports film, and it's not just about Jack and his life, but it's about self-destruct and to the people around him too. The jealousy and self-hatred, and there is guilt with that. The use of slow motion is incredible to show you the POV of Jack and how he exaggerates every little detail, especially around Vicky, that you might even at some point would think maybe there is something, like sometimes you would believe him. I think there is so much meaning in every detail and missed sentences. You might have unnoticed it on your first watch. The arena for Jack is not just a game, but also he thinks about it as the place where he will get redemption. And the bunches is like for the sins that he had done before. Through the film, you will see that actually what Jack really wants is love, but he doesn't know how to get it. Because deep down, he doesn't love himself and he doesn't think that he deserves it. So he drives away everyone or hold on too tightly that they eventually just leave him. This is such an honest portrait. Only Martin Scorsese could have perfected it. He always chooses such ugly characters and he gives them lots of humanity. And what an unexpected arc for Jack's character. At the beginning, he is a very serious man and respectable, but at the end he turns into a joke. Performances were great as usual. The beautiful black and white cinematography and the precious editing. It's not the most rewatchable from Martin Scorsese's filmography, and I think you should save it for every couple of years, but you will always be surprised with something new. I think the best way to describe After Hours is just like Marty goes weird as the night goes on. If you want to talk about crazy, this is crazy but incredible. For me, the way I went to this movie, I had no idea what it's about. I didn't watch a trailer, I didn't read the synopsis, I just went to it. And I think this is the best way to watch. If there is any Scorsese film that probably doesn't need too much analysis, it's this one. Just turn off your brain. You don't know what's going on for most of it, and it keeps you on your toes. There is never a straight answer from anyone. All conversations are transactional. This is typically the case with Martin Scorsese's pictures, but instead of focusing on the story across several decades, it's just limited to one night, which shifts the focus from the decay of the soul to the decay of the mind. I think this one not underrated, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, like just people who knows Martin Scorsese. I think this is not on the top of their list, but this is amazing movie. Absolutely incredible. By far, this is my favorite De Niro's performance like ever. It's so scary. I want it to end even though like I love it and it's so intriguing. But through the whole film you feel so uneasy. Like I can't take my eyes off of the screen. But also I want it to vanish. The idea of being a king for a day is better than being a schmuck for the rest of your life. And also how the people reacted to it in the film is so terrifyingly relatable of how it would have been taken in real life. Also, what shocked me the most was how good his routine was. I actually, for a second, I forgot how horrible he is as a person and the way that he actually is kidnapping someone right this moment. For a second, you forget about this whole thing and I was just having fun. It was funny. De Niro's performance is just, it's wild. It's genuinely one of the best performances I've seen in my entire life. And I think if I haven't watched Goodfellas or Taxi Driver when I was younger, that would have been my favorite Scorsese's movie. And talking about it right now made me feel like I want to rewatch it. Taxi Driver. I don't think any film came closer to this one of how it resembles loneliness and dealing with trauma. These two combined are too crucial on a human being. The instability of Travis is scary and emotional. You feel bad for him, but just right after when you feel that, he smacks you with some scary and unbelievable behavior. It's a meandering story with no plot in sight, but characters like Travis Bickle aren't written very often, and when they do, they pop up in the film that surrounds them is usually less interesting than the character itself. But with Taxi Driver, the movie itself is an amalgam of Travis. They are fully intertwined and illuminating each other in ways that only great films can do. The most impressive aspect for me and all the other humans that love this movie is we can all relate to Mr. Bickle. When we feel that sense of isolation and loneliness that Travis stumbles into, both Schrader, Robert De Niro, and Scorsese obviously connected with these emotions, opening up their inner demons in a vulnerable but also creative way. I just respect them so much for making it with such conviction in their vision. To collaborate in this filmmaking level over emotions, ideas that are so complex and personal seems damn near impossible. But I think it's easy to talk about this film and to admire it. I mean, my god, the cinematography in this movie is breathtaking. The music is soul-searing, the editing and the camera techniques are still being analyzed to this day. It's just so glorious in what it's trying to do. These guys were born to make this movie. This is one of the best movies that resembles loneliness and what it can do to a person, because at the end of the day we all want to belong to something or someone, and Travis just wanted to be loved. I don't really like to use the word perfect that much, but this film really is. I enjoy it every time, even more than the time before, and it doesn't get old. What a cinematic masterpiece. I think we all knew where this was going, but this movie, I don't know, this movie means so much to me, and it may not make sense, and I get it, but it's a masterpiece. And if we're talking about Scorsese, this is the face of his filmography. They perfected every element in this film. From the very opening of it, you feel like you're being subconsciously prepared for what's to come. The way the titles fly by like cars, it indicates on how life fly by, especially for people like this. The thing about Scorsese, he always picks the most horrible group of people that you would ever imagine. The way these despicable characters presented in a way that you like them, even though you know who they are. And honestly, I can't take Bolly as a villain. I can't. He's such a great guy. For me, I think he's amazing. He hasn't done anything wrong. He was just, he was basically, taking money, but he was also protecting the little guys, I don't know, that's my opinion. I don't care. This film has perfect editing, and I mean perfect. I love the usage of the freeze frame in some key moments of Henry's life, because the whole movie just goes by so fast. But when we get these freeze frames, like, we know that these are important moments of his life, that we need to focus on these and the meaning behind it. How each cut and needle drop are immaculately selected, placed in time. What a powerhouse film is, an absolute master of her craft. The way this movie feels like the gangster lifestyle. It pulls you in and doesn't let you go, the relentless and smooth pace, and reminds me of how Martin Scorsese understands rhythm and tempo. Every detail it was just very, very well thought. I can sit here and talk about this movie for hours if not days. So here we have it. this is my rank of Scorsese. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna change from year to year, and yeah, so go watch his movies, rank them if you want, and see you in the next one.
Thank you.